What is going on, guys? It's been a minute since I've uploaded a YouTube video, but I wanted to get back into it because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I am talking about on social media and stuff like that at the moment, I'm needing a space to really deep dive and expand on these things that Instagram just simply doesn't allow me to do. So I'm going to start doing a lot more of these raw videos. There'll be no edits, there'll be no fancy anything. It'll just be me sitting down and talking through a topic. So if you enjoy this kind of content, then strap in because there's going to be a lot of value in these videos that we've got coming up. And today I want to start off by talking about something that really came to me yesterday during my long run. So at the moment I'm on a half marathon plan. Um, I've tried to do this before, but at the time I was trying to run and diet, so I was in a deficit, and I got to a point where it was just too much. I wasn't eating enough and I wasn't feeling good, so I had to stop. But I'm in week 5, and yesterday was a 12K long run, and I did it in a 6:34 pace, which for me is the fastest I've done for that distance by a long, long way. And it honestly felt easy, so much so that my last K, I was like, all right, let's see how quick I can do this. And I did my last K when I was the most tired at like a 5:39, I think it was. And after I finished that, it got me thinking because I used to have this belief that I was just not a runner, right? I played basketball for pretty much my whole life up until about 18. I've obviously been in the gym and training for the last 15 years or so. And I've had periods where I have run, but for most of my life, I was like, you know what, I'm not a runner. I'm not built to be a runner. I'm, at the moment 6'4", 100 kilos. So, I'm a bigger dude. And so running was just something that I thought that I would never, ever really be good at. But what that did was, as soon as I created this belief that I am not a runner, I would then not go and run and do the very thing that would disprove that belief system. And so I lived for so long just not running, not really entertaining it, not, thinking I wouldn't enjoy it, thinking I couldn't do it, all because I had this underlying belief that I am just not a runner. And so I would just create a self fulfilling prophecy and a loop that would simply confirm that. And the only way that I've been able to disprove that is by going out and running and doing it consistently to the point now where it is just such a part of my life. I love it, I'm getting good at it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, the reason I tell this story is because how I've gotten from I'm not a runner to running 12Ks at a 6:34 or whatever, which for me is awesome, is based on the fact that I have gone out to disprove this belief system by taking action. And when we apply this to a lot of the self-image work I do, the identity work I do, body image, relationships, you can apply this to absolutely everything. The premise and the framework of doing this is exactly the same. Because if you have an underlying belief that you are not worthy of finding your true love, or you're not capable of attracting in a good quality man or woman, or you can't ever lose the 10 kilos and love your body, or you can't start a business and make X amount of money, right? The minute that you make this decision about who you are, because belief systems are essentially decisions, right? This is a really great way to look at them, because when we say belief systems, it can be a little bit kind of woo and whatever, but belief systems are decisions that you have made about yourself that then dictate, how you move through your life. And so I'd made that decision that I wasn't a runner. Back when I had my body dysmorphia struggles, I made the decision that I would never be confident, that I would never be attractive, that I would never be able to step fully into my masculine because, again, I'd made the decision that I was not good enough. And so I created an entire life that was based off that belief system. But seeing this play out like I did yesterday and reflecting on my life and how I've, worked through the things I've worked through, it's just a series of different decisions that I've made to then go out and take action and prove that these belief systems were a lie. They were wrong, right? And on the, above it all, any belief, any thought that is limiting in nature, that is, fills you with doubt or insecurity or just doesn't make you feel good is a lie, right? We have this built-in, lie detector when we enter these belief systems that are not actually us. It's like it gives us that negative feeling and negative emotion. So a lot of these beliefs that people struggle with, they've never been yours to hold, right? They're not actually from God, they're from the world. And then you've become loyal to them and created a whole life that actually proves these belief systems, right? Just about every client that comes to work with me has some level of not good enough story. And it applies to their relationships, it applies to their body, it applies to the way they live their life, right? It's never been from God. That's been from the world, and they've gone through things and had experiences that have led them down this path to believe that that's just who they are. They're just not enough, right? And like I said, if we believe that I am not enough, we are then going to go out and seek evidence and take action or non-action, whatever else, to prove that that is correct, right? So the best thing you can do, and this is something that I've taken on and I live with every single day and I pass on to my clients as well, is the only way you are going to move out of the struggles and issues that you are experiencing right now is by becoming an absolute savage in disproving your current beliefs, right? And the ones that you need to disprove are the ones that are every day holding you back from being the person that you know you need to be to build the life that you want, right? Because I know you have visions for your life. I know you have this dream of the way you want to live, how you want to look, the people you want in your life, the relationship, the family, the business, the purpose, the travel, the lifestyle, all these things. But then even thinking about those things, maybe right now, there's some kind of doubt. There's some questioning that is going on within you that is like, I can't have that, or I'm not capable, or I've tried before and I've failed, right? Those are the things that you need to start challenging and disproving, because they're the things that are blocking you from taking the action to actually create the thing, right? How did I disprove that I'm not a runner, that I'm not a runner belief? I went out and started running, even though it felt like shit at first, even though I wasn't good at it, even though I would still have imposter syndrome, when I saw I had to do a certain distance, right? But I was like, no, I'm going to prove this wrong because this is not what I want. So therefore, the opposite must exist, and it's up to me to prove that to myself. Right, this is what's underneath all of these cycles and patterns and limitations that so many people face. And this is why so many of my clients that come to me work through things in a matter of weeks that they've been to therapy for years or they've been struggling with for years, and they'd come to the belief that this is just how it was always going to be. Right? They were just making the same decision again and again and again, that they weren't enough, that they couldn't attract their partner, that they couldn't lose the weight. Right? It's just this big self-fulfilling prophecy. But as soon as I held a mirror up to them and say, okay, this belief that you're having, this doubt that you're having, this isn't actually yours, right? So if it's not actually yours, it was never yours to hold, and therefore you can put it down. But the only way that you can put it down is by disproving this belief through taking action, right? What do you need to do? How do you need to think instead? What evidence do you have to support this? What environment do you need to be in? What conversation do you need to have? Half the time just being in my space and having me hold a mirror up to them and not validating their problems starts to shift these beliefs in and of themselves. That's just purely down to environment, right? So instead of sitting into this victim mentality, this validation culture that we have in our society, where we can find all the evidence to confine ourselves to these things that we believe to be true about ourselves, you need to actually start challenging that. Because if it's getting in your way of building the life that you ultimately want, then it's never been yours. But it is your responsibility to steward the work to disprove it. Right? We need God in this. We need Him as our guide and as our support, and He will give us what we need. But He will only steer the boat if we row. Right? We row, God will steer. And so for me, again, back to the runner thing. Like every single week, I'm disproving this belief more and more and more. Right, on this half marathon plan, I just did 12 Ks yesterday. Next week I've got 14, so that'll be another little piece of evidence that this is no longer aligned with me. Right, so what can you do today? What can you say? What can you start to reframe? What can you find evidence of to really disprove these beliefs and thoughts that are holding you back? And I promise you, when you start to do this and understand this, that's how we get this identity level shift. Right, we start to change at an internal level, and our internal world and how we think and feel and act and the stories that run our lives, they are the things that we project out, which then create our reality, right? Which create the actions, which create the results, right? It all starts with you challenging these decisions that you have made about yourself. And this is how I've been able to get into this place that I am now, with my body, with my mindset, with my business, with my relationships, and with where I'm going in my life. I know everything that I want, everything that God has placed in my heart is simply inevitable. But it's up to me to continue to challenge the little beliefs and doubts and voice of the enemy and, my physical reality in the now, to start to challenge those things so I can shift them, so I can eventually step into this. Right? And this is the work that I do with my guys as well. Right? Truly meaningful identity work where we're removing what does not serve you so you can fully step into this. Right? But it has to start with you. You have to start making different decisions than you have before if you want a different life. Become an absolute, relentless, delusional savage at disproving your limiting beliefs and watch what happens.